Hello and welcome to another free code session. My name is Jason Bach. I finished the issue on only allowing open generics. So I've cleaned everything out with that. So I had to fix some tests. I had to do a fair amount on the code generation test to remove all the mapping. We don't need that anymore, so that's good. And I've discovered that in cleaning up the code, in fact, this is what I'm going to be working on next, but it shows you what I'm going to start trying to do with all my tests. Because sometimes I've had I should do this for both the create and the make, but then I got to set up two tests, and it's a small paper cut, but it's annoying. With having this now as a flag on this attribute, I can easily have both of them generated at the same time. So that's kind of nice. I actually like that because that way I'm always covering both types. One thing I've found with also updating is there was a couple of nice little fixes and things with pattern matching that, this always comes with every new version of .NET. There seems like there's new things that they've thrown in to help you out in just little ways here, there, and everywhere. So I made those updates. What I found, though, is running code generation tests is that there's 8,500 errors. And at least one of them seems to be this problem that I'm showing here. And that is this. So scoped is added to params. So one of the things that's changing in .NET 9 is if you have a params that's always been an array. With .NET 9, you can now use different collection types. For example, you can use a read-only span, and there's some advantages to using things like read-only span. I think you can put in span, you can put in list, you can put in different types, and they all work. I'm not exactly sure. I know there was changes that were coming with params types and what you could put in there with the next version. So the one thing, though, that's causing an issue is I add the word scoped for the keyword scope for some reason. I forget why. When I added support for scoped, that I was adding them for cases of using a ref struct, I believe. Now, the thing is with the params, it doesn't matter. If it's a params, you should never add scope to it. That's at least the thing I'm picking up on. So when you do this and you create an override for this virtual method, I'm adding scope to params. And as you can see down below here with errors, there's a whole bunch of them that show up because suddenly everything gets out of whack. That's what I'm going to try to fix in this one, is basically don't add scoped to a params. I already have a test in place that covers this error, and I did search before in here for scoped, and I don't know why it's doing that. Okay, so there's a couple places here you can see in the make and in the create. We're looking to see if it's scoped. Now I just want to, because I'm a curious fella, we are looking here to say if it's a ref-like type and the scoped kind is scoped value. Okay. So for what, or it's a value type and the ref kind is ref and scope kind is scoped. Okay. So apparently that's what I'm using to do this. But when we're saying if it's params, we don't want the scoped here. So what we could do is saying is params, it would be a string.empty. Else, if it's scoped, we say scoped, otherwise string.empty. We can just do that in all the other places. So and yes, this is repeated code. I know that I've had this code all over the place. And I know it's been on my list to be like, hey, you should change this because you keep repeating this everywhere. I never get around to doing it. I just keep changing it, which is wrong. I know it's wrong, but I got to some days just spend the time to actually go through and clean that up. Okay. So what this should do, let's close these and there. Okay, so now this is going to change the generated code. So let me do this. We're going to now back this out. Actually, let's run the tests here because I should only have this one now failing. The rest of them shouldn't be impacted by this because we were never putting scoped with params before. So nothing else should break other than this being fixed here. Which is not fixed. Well, it's fixed, but we have to get this test to pass now. Okay, so we got the one failing, and it's this one. So this one, now we got to grab all the code. So let me do that real quick. And before I run these tests, I just want to show the override here no longer has scoped. If I come up to this one, when we make the mock, do span params, yeah, that's now. So we'll see now what happens. And it passes. Good. Okay, excuse me. I'm not going to run the integration tests right now because I'm not really concerned about that. We've never had a case for, although what I should do is add a test for integration just to show that, yes, you can do params and it works just fine. Well, with a read-only span. So I'll do that in a second. What I want to do now is actually run the code generation tests and see the number that I picked here. Well, not picked, but that's what we're at right now. So there may still be more because of new features or something broke or whatever. But now let's run this and see, does anything change? Does the error count go down? Well, this is the oof thing I think I said in the last episode, which is I'm occasionally getting errors like this. And they're random. They don't seem to have any kind of rhyme or reason as to where it's happening. But I do see this. Actually, let me copy it just to say, just because I want to capture this and say the random exception I'm getting from, I mean, none of this has failed before. And I can try running this again and see what happens. I want this to actually get through because it did get through. I did get a count before, and making this change shouldn't have affected this. So I don't know why this is happening, but this is, as you can tell, if you look at the names, this is way in the bowels of the compiler. So I'm not sure why this is happening. Anyway, so I'm going to try to get this to run. I may restart Visual Studio again, just see what I can do, see if I can get this to get fixed, or see if I can actually get through a full run. And then I'm actually going to submit an error to Roslyn because I'm not sure why this is happening. The other thing too I can also do is, if I can't, I was testing this with a specific type. Yeah, StreamWriter. So if I can't get this all to work, I can at least run this to get some assurance that this is no longer an issue there. So I'll be right back. Well, I can't get past it, so I just ran this one. I'm still getting a lot of errors on this one. So what I can do now is run this under the debugger. I mean, I'm pretty confident I've solved the issue with the params showing up, but apparently there's still something here. So what we can do is, let me get rid of that. Just dump the code in here, because this is usually a good indicator as to, oh yeah, let's just take that off and then do that. This is saying it does not implement. So where is the first? Oh yes. So I'm making a name here because it is a, so this is an interesting one because I think what's happened in .NET 9, a lot of APIs have been updated to now have overloads for using read-only span for places or using that for params or whatnot. And well, they're putting in things where they need like object, but it's a nullable object, which is fine. You can do that. But my naming here isn't handling that correctly. Now, the problem though is that if I can handle ref structs correctly with using the anti-constraint allows, all this goes away. And all these errors that it's seeing because it's having the question mark here, this might still need to be the evaluation would not be generated from what I remember. You don't need to do that. This wouldn't be generated. And I think that's what's throwing this all off is the naming and it just being flat out wrong. So that isn't getting fixed right now. I can't, I'm going to fix that when I do the anti-constraints. I'm at least convinced that I've done the right thing in fixing the params thing. So if I go again back to that test here and I say params, and I have this test now that says when it's a ref struct that we are generating the right code. Yes, this can be nullable because this is just saying it's a type that can be nullable within this. But again, this would all go away. If this was a string nullable here, I would be putting of string question mark. That's something I've just never done is for read-only span of, and then I just don't handle that correctly. So I'm going to have to keep that in the back of my head to maybe still fix that because I think I do have to generate one delegate in certain cases, but maybe not. We'll find out. But the rest of this, it all compiles. It's all good. So you know what? Actually, let's just do this. Let's take this, go into our program, and then test with code. And so test with code allows us to basically plop in code like this and say, hey, go off and generate something for me. So let's see what this does. Inconsistent language. Yeah, hold on. this generator language. I thought, well, okay. So I set that correctly. I've obviously updated it for this case. Where is this all being used? It doesn't get mockable types. App domain, references, C# compilation, the driver. Okay, so this is 267. If I come over here and I look at when I do all of them, it is 145. So we want this to be 145. And then this one we want to be 267. Okay, so what's the difference between these two? Because the other one works, so I must have missed something somewhere. So we have options here. We make the parse options, and then we pass that into parse text, which we are passing in options that use this, which I currently have set to preview. Okay. But then where is this all being used? And yes, I knew there was some other place we need to do it with the driver. So we say create generator driver with updated parse options, which we don't have that. So let's put that into a local. And for some reason, there. So now we have parse options. Okay, now let's run it. And it works. Okay, so that's also some confidence that what I did with this error seems to work. Obviously, there are still errors with generating code for ref structs, which, like I said, will in all likelihood go away once I tackle the issue of doing ref structs. That's going to come after, if I look at my list here for the milestone, that's going to come after I do, what's the next one on the list? I wish there was a way to order these to say, like, what do I find most important to least? And yes, I have priorities here, but it's removing the existing attributes. So that's going to be a fair amount of just busy work to get rid of that. But yeah, so I think this is done. I will add a test for integration testing just to show that a read-only span as a params does work as expected. And then I will close this out as fixed. The next one will be removing the existing attributes, rock create and rock make attributes. And then I think I'm going to tackle the ref-like types because of the things I'm running into. And I will also go to Rosalind's repo and report an issue on these random things happening. Thank you all for watching. Leave comments and questions below. See you in the next episode.